Hi everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Prismacolor Technique boxes. Well, just this one here. Here I have the level 1 drawing and shading. This is the nature drawing set. I picked this up at Walmart. I think Walmart's the only retailer I've seen, like brick and mortar retailer that has these. Well, no, Michael's has them too, but they're like really expensive at Michael's. Um, and I know Amazon has them as well. Toward the end of last year, end of 2022, they went on clearance, like $5, I think. They got as low as $5, but not the level 1. It was a level 2 and 3. I did get this one, I think, for a couple dollars off, but not quite that many dollars off. So anyway, this is the level 1, the nature drawing set. It comes with 26 items. We have 18 soft core colored pencils, 1 magic rub eraser, 1 drawing pad, 1 turquoise graphite pencil, 2 illustration markers, 1 mini sharpener, an instruction booklet, 1 drawing template, and then the online instructions. Let's go ahead and open the box. And this is what we see when we open the box. This is the drawing pad. It's got really thick paper inside, like really thick. I'm trying to, it's like really thick. It feels like it's 2 pieces of paper, but it's just like really thick. I don't know if you can hear how thick that is, but it's very thick. It's probably like, I don't know, maybe 5 by 8 inch pad if I had to guess, roughly. And then we've got, this is the template, I'm guessing, of the flower that's on the front of the box. Then it's got, I guess you get 5. Damn, this just expired. Oh well, it doesn't matter. But it's a coupon, I guess, $5 off, probably your next box. What else is here? Oh, it's just folded in half. Okay. So there's that, and then this is the probably little booklet. So it's the drawing instructions for how to do the flower, and then some shading techniques. And then we've got the supplies here themselves. I'm gonna go ahead and take this out of here. I don't know why there's a lemon. Oh, it fell out. Okay. I couldn't tell at first. I was like, why is there a loose pencil in here? So these are the supplies here. We've got our, was it 18? Yeah, 18 colored pencils here. Those 18 colors are canary yellow, yellowed orange, orange, pale vermilion, permanent red, scarlet red, neon pink, hot pink, lavender, processed red, Caribbean Sea blue lake, light cerulean blue, powder blue, cobalt blue hue, ultramarine, violet blue, and lemon yellow. Then we've got the turquoise graphite pencil. This is just a regular pencil. It also kind of looks a bit off center. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it looks a bit off center. So we'll see if you have any issues sharpening that, but it comes with a pencil. I don't know why they don't put an eraser on these. I do think that's a bit strange. Then we've got, I guess they call these illustration markers. You can buy these on their own. They're just their fine line markers that usually come like in packs of 5 or 6. We've got them in size 0.01 and 0.005, so 2 pretty small nib sizes. If you'll be able to see those. So 2 pretty small nib sizes. A pencil sharpener made in Germany. So I guess the blade is a German blade, but the body's made in China. So it's probably a pretty decent sharpener. And then the Prismacolor Magic Rub Eraser, which I've had the pleasure, or maybe displeasure of using these. I'm not a fan of these erasers, but I'll give it a shot again since I have it here. So that's what comes in the box. We've got the template here, and I will go ahead and I guess take a look at the lessons and see how we do. Now, these I think are kind of aimed at, I assume they're aimed at kind of beginners because they say your art journey starts here, right? And they have 3 levels. This is level 1. So I'm going to assume that this should be pretty accessible for someone with no prior art experience. That is not me. I don't claim to be an expert by any means. If you check out my blog on WordPress, it's literally called Amateur Art. But I have been, drawing and stuff since I was a teenager, and I'm 27 now, so I've got a little bit of experience, but I'm not particularly experienced when it comes to drawing flowers. So we will see how we do. Okay, so I've got the course up, or the instructional videos up, and I'm going to go ahead and follow them and see how it turns out. Of course, I thought the link would bring me directly to the one I have, but I guess I had to find it. Oh, okay. Finally got that up. This is ridiculous. I guess I'll go ahead and use all their supplies. So I'm going to go ahead and sharpen this pencil with the pencil sharpener that they included. Old trash can. All scratched up. So off center. So off center that like on this side you can see so much of the lead, and then on that side you can't see nearly as much. Ridiculous. Okay, so now we've finished going through the online lessons, and I'm going to go through my thoughts on how they were. And I guess really this video is more like a review of the lessons themselves, because Prismacolor products are Prismacolor products. Anyway, so this is the finished artwork that I made here. I think it turned out pretty decently. I was a little bit concerned at first because I don't typically draw flowers or anything nature. So it turned out pretty good. I'm not happy with the center of the flower. You can see how it's really, it should be like a bright yellow, like what's in the kind of example on this booklet, but it turned out kind of dingy and you can still see some of the pencil marks. And that's just, I was following the video, I was following the instructions as they said. Me personally, I think what I would have done was, especially for this middle part here, I think I would have gone over it with one of these fine line markers, erased the graphite, and then colored in after that, because I think we wouldn't have had this smearing of the graphite pencil, which is what makes it look kind of dull and dingy and gray. So I thought the lessons were okay. Accessing them was honestly a bit confusing, just because if you go to this link, this prismacolor.com/nature1, it will take you to the videos, but you'll need an account to watch the videos, and you also have to purchase the videos. Now, if you bought the box, you do have access to the videos, but through the website, you have to go through as if you're going to purchase it. Like, it will ask for your credit card information. Apparently, what you do is you don't enter your credit card information. Don't enter your credit card information because it will charge you. And you just enter the code that is underneath the QR code inside of your box. That information is not on this pamphlet before anybody thinks I'm like giving away the lessons for free. It's not on here. The QR code also doesn't give you direct access to the lessons. It just takes you to the kind of like landing page, and then you'll either have to purchase them or enter the code if you've already bought the box. So in essence, if you already had the Prismacolor materials or any kind of materials, I guess, you could just buy the videos. They're $10, I think, per, like, the whole Nature 1 series that came with this box is $10. I think they were all $10. So specifically with this Nature Level 1 box, there were 3 videos. The first one was sketch and outline, the second was hatching and cross hatching, and the third was coloring and shading a flower's center. All 3 of these videos combined was approximately 40 minutes of content. You also get access to 2 digital PDFs that you can download and print if you wanted to. One of them was just a digital version of this leaflet that's included in the box. And then there was another one that contained a more realistic photo of this, as well as this specific drawing. The realistic picture of the flower is not in the box, which I thought was kind of weird. I don't know why they didn't put that in here, because I think that would have been easier to reference rather than this. But it is what it is. So, my thoughts on the lessons themselves. What I noticed when I first started playing the lessons was that they were really, really fast. Like, it went very quickly. I had to essentially pause it pretty early on and then just go through and try and draw the flower myself, because the videos don't really provide very much step by step instruction on how to draw. And speaking of the step-by-step instruction, I tried to do the steps as they were in here. You know, they tell you to start with a circle and a line for the stem, and then kind of do some kind of like guidelines for the petals. That didn't work for me. I don't know if it's just because I don't draw flowers on a regular basis, so these kind of guidelines didn't really mean much to me. But I basically just jumped in and started sketching step 3. Um, One thing I thought was a bit strange was like in the videos, you're not actually being taught by the artist who is drawing, in this case, the flower. They do have the artist, you know, drawing it, but the voiceover is a different person. Not the end of the world, but I think maybe the videos would have been a little bit more helpful if the artist was maybe going over what they were actually doing as they were doing it, and it may have also helped it not go by so quickly. As far as the instruction in the videos, they do go over the shading techniques. They do go through, I think, each one just pretty quickly, nothing super in depth. They also tell you which colored pencil to use and when and kind of sort of where. And they do also emphasize that there is no like wrong way to do it. And don't be afraid to get creative. Your drawing does not have to look exactly like this. You can take some artistic liberties if you want to, which I think is a good message to emphasize. One thing I thought was kind of interesting was the illustration markers or the fine line markers. They didn't really they weren't really that important. You only really needed to use one for one step, and it wasn't a very involved step. They also don't really tell you how to use the marker. And I mean, it's a marker, but they don't really explain like they give you two, right, and they're two different sizes. The 005 is smaller than the 01. Like I said, they don't really explain like the difference in the sizes, maybe the different effects you can get by using a thicker marker versus a thinner nib marker. Which brings me to another point. They kind of tell you what to do, but they don't tell you why. And they also don't really give you that much instruction on how to use the materials that they give you in the box. The bulk of the instruction I felt that was in these videos was essentially look at your reference photo and either put the color where you see it in the reference photo or draw what you see in the reference photo, which is good advice. I mean, art is not really something you can give somebody a step by step, okay, do this, and then, you're going to end up with this or you're going to end up with that. There's not really any guaranteed way to, assure that someone's going to get the end result if they follow these steps. But I don't know. I feel like maybe telling a beginner, look at your reference photo, may not be particularly helpful, especially if you're not maybe used to drawing from a reference photo or taking color from a reference photo. Maybe you don't really understand what it is you're looking at. I do think drawing from a reference photo is something that takes some skill that you do have to learn. But I don't know. I remember like when I started taking art classes like in middle school, and these were just like elective art classes in my school. They weren't anything special. They would teach you kind of like drawing from reference photos, and what you kind of have to do when you're drawing from a reference photo is don't really look at the photo as a whole. Like, yes, this is a flower, but if you're going to draw from this as a reference photo, you should just really be looking at the individual lines rather than, okay, this is a petal, right? You'd look like, okay, this is a curved line that's met by this line, that's met by that line, and that's, I think, a skill that if you haven't really been taught how to draw from a reference photo, somebody telling you draw from a reference photo may not be particularly helpful. And if it was that easy, I think everybody would be able to just draw by looking at a picture, right? But I do feel like it was just a weird, I don't know, the videos were just kind of strange to me because like I said, they didn't really explain like even really how to use the materials in the box, which I feel like just for Prismacolor is a bit of a missed opportunity. They don't really explain the paper that they give you. They don't explain the paper that they give you because, I don't know, when you're first starting out as an artist, you may not think paper matters. It does. I don't think Prismacolor actually sells like their own brand of paper. I've never seen it. I actually did really like the paper. I was a little bit apprehensive because it is very, very thick. It's almost like a watercolor paper. It's also very textured, but I felt that it worked pretty well with the Prismacolor colored pencils because if you're familiar with Prismacolor colored pencils, they are wax based, and if you start building up a lot of layers, you can end up with a lot of wax on the paper to where you almost won't be able to put any more layers down. And I think the pretty textured nature of this paper made it so that I was able to put more layers of the pencil down than I would have been on a smoother kind of paper. And maybe that's a bit of an advanced concept, but I do feel like that maybe would have been something useful for Prismacolor to mention, like, we're using this textured paper because you can build up layers with a pencil. That's something else they don't really mention too much, is layering or mixing colors, because you do mix colors. They don't really tell you that you're mixing colors, but they do tell you like use this color and then go on top of it with this color and then go on top of it with that color. So they tell you that, but they don't really tell you like that you're truly mixing colors and what your result would have been if maybe instead of layering, like, I know there's like powder blue was kind of like the lightest color that was used here, and then we went in with like a Caribbean sea, and then there was violet blue and then an ultramarine. Maybe if you hadn't have had the layers of powder blue, Caribbean sea, and violet blue, if you just went in with an ultramarine for the darkest areas, you may not have ended up with as dark of a shade as you would have if you layered it. Just things they didn't really mention that I think would have been helpful for people to really learn the materials that are in the box. And I mentioned already about the illustration markers. I have been using fine line markers for a really long time. I like them. I don't have a lot of experience with the Prismacolor ones specifically, even though I do own a set. But they don't really, they tell you like, okay, we're going to outline the very outer part of the flower to define the lines, right? But they don't really tell you, okay, we're not going to do the inside. They don't really tell you why. They don't even tell you which size to use, which I thought was kind of weird. Um, excuse me. They don't really tell you which size to use, which I thought was kind of weird. I'm not sure if somebody who was, an absolute beginner and was not familiar with fine line markers would really realize that these were two different nib sizes right away. And like I said, they're pretty small. So if you were to outline, the outer part of the flower with the 005, that line really wouldn't stand out very much at all compared to how much it would with this 01, which is still, like I said, a very small nib. But like I said, they don't really tell you, like, I don't know. I feel like this would have been an opportunity for Prismacolor to brag about their own products, but they kind of didn't. They don't tell you like, oh, you can use these markers to help your art stand out. If you use different nib sizes, different pressure as you're making your lines, you can vary line thickness and, create more depth. They don't talk about them being maybe fade proof or waterproof or smudge proof, or they don't mention any of that. I don't really know if they are, but I'm sure that that's probably the intent, but they don't really go into that. And like I said, you hardly even use these illustration markers. The Prismacolor turquoise pencil, and I put this grip on here myself. This doesn't come with it. Honestly, I felt like they bragged about the pencil the most. I don't really know why. It is just a basic pencil. Mine was off center, like I mentioned earlier. It also doesn't have an eraser on the end. um, it's just a basic pencil. I pretty much exclusively use mechanical pencils at this point, just either for drawing or writing. You don't have to sharpen them, and they tend to keep a point longer. I was finding myself having to like constantly sharpen this, and also, the fact that it was so off centered and this side of the wood was way further up than this side meant that, I was really having to sharpen this pencil a lot. So, it was okay. Like I said, I would have used a mechanical pencil myself. The sharpener also worked fine, as expected, made a sharp point. The Magic Rub Eraser, I do believe I mentioned this earlier that I have used this before. I also don't know why Prismacolor can't really get the branding on the eraser straight. Not a big deal, but it's just, I don't know, a lot of people talk about Prismacolor cutting costs to, save money, and just little things like that kind of maybe show that mentality. But the Magic Rub Eraser I have used before because it came in a different set that I bought. I still see some pencil marks here that I can erase. Like I said, I had used it before. I wasn't really impressed. I don't know if maybe just with my mechanical pencils it didn't work as well, or maybe the lead I was using was too hard. But either way, I never really had an issue erasing my pencils before until I tried to use the Prismacolor Magic Rub Eraser. I did find that it did actually erase the this pencil pretty well. It was usable for sure compared to before. I think when I used it before, I mean, I like tried to erase once and I was like, ew, I don't know if I'm using it wrong, but I mean, an eraser should be an eraser, right? But I don't know, with their own pencil, it worked fine. But I don't know how I feel about an eraser that only works great with the manufacturer's pencils. That's very odd to me. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was okay with it, with their own pencil. I didn't have any problems with it. So overall, like I mentioned, I'm not a beginner myself. I don't claim to be an expert either, but I'm not a total beginner. I'm not sure like how helpful these videos would really be to somebody who was maybe really needing instruction. And I guess if you really need instruction, take a class, right? I don't know. But like I said, a lot of the instruction was draw what you see in the reference photo, put the colors where you see them in the reference photo. That to me is not really super great instruction, especially since this was level 1. There is like a level 3, I think, where they literally have you have take a reference photo with the grid and draw it based on the grid, which would probably more adequately teach you how to draw from a reference photo. But I don't know, for level 1 I felt like it was a bit not too helpful. So for that reason, I would say that these boxes, if you're somebody who wants to maybe try different techniques and you've got a bit of experience, or you just want to get into art and you're not expecting, very much instruction, and you're open to making mistakes. I know sometimes people who don't consider themselves to be artists, if they start drawing something and it looks bad, or they're following instructions, it's not turning out like they think it should, they get frustrated and they just stop. So if that's you, I'm not sure if these boxes would really help you feel more confident in your art, which maybe is a bit much to ask of, I don't know, some free videos that come with a kit. But I thought it was a decent box for me. It had some experience. The drawing part was not an issue for me. And it did, give me some different techniques to try. I was familiar with the shading techniques that they went over, but I really had never done them with colored pencil, um, which to mention the shading techniques that they give you can be done with regular pencil pen. They're not colored pencil specific. But like I said, it's doing those kind of shading techniques that you would maybe normally do with a pencil or a pen. I had never done with colored pencils, so it gave me an opportunity to try something different. Because on my own, I probably definitely wouldn't have colored this flower this way, and I was pretty happy with it. Except, like I said, the center, I do feel like they kind of I wouldn't have done it that way. Um, but I wanted to try, drawing something with a colored pencil that didn't have like super obvious lines, because I've drawn things with colored pencils before, and typically, I'll draw something and then I'll go over it with ink, and then I'll color it in colored pencil, and those black lines are still very visible. Um, this kind of the finished product didn't have those visible black lines. I was like, well, let me try that, and so I figured that was why we just went right over the graphite with the pencil. And I think since the flower was mainly blues, the grayness of the graphite didn't really pose much of a problem for the petals, and even the stem is blue. Which brings me up to another point real quick. I'm not really sure why the flower is blue. Even the reference photo of the flower, it's like entirely blue. It doesn't really look like a natural flower. It kind of looks like an AI generated flower or something, or an intergalactic flower. I don't really know. But one thing that is weird is that this is a nature set and there are no greens. They don't give you any kind of green colored pencil, which I think is a weird decision. But yeah, like I said, I wouldn't have colored this way, so it did give me an opportunity to try something different. And I think that the way they have you color the flower, it's not so much of an issue that the you can see the texture of the paper through the pencil. If you were going for a really smooth blended look, I do think that this paper may be a bit too textured, but for the techniques that they had you doing, I think the paper, it was ideal. Um, so those are my thoughts on the Prismacolor Technique Level 1 Nature Box. Like I said, I think if you got some art experience and you want a little bit of guidance on, maybe trying different techniques, I think this is a good box. You don't have to even necessarily draw the picture yourself. They do have the template here if you wanted to just work with this and do some do the coloring and maybe do some of the shading. You could do that just with this, if you weren't too confident in your drawing skills, or you could trace it. You could also trace it. So, it is nice that they include that, but this isn't really a how to draw box. I'm not really sure if it's really a how to color box. It's more to me here's some just techniques, like it's called Prismacolor Technique. Here are some techniques that you can try, right? Um, like I said earlier, you can buy the videos if you don't want the materials. You can buy the videos themselves. They're $10. I don't think they're worth $10 just because you can get so many better, more helpful videos actually made by the artists themselves for free on YouTube. So if it comes with a box, so it's fine. But if you can't get your hands on the box, or you've already got a ton of materials, and you're like, well, Prismacolor is an artist brand, I'm sure their videos would be helpful to me. I don't think they really would be. And at $10, I would say just go on YouTube. You'd find much better, more in-depth, more helpful videos from actual artists there than you would with these Prismacolor Technique boxes. So overall, I think I've said overall 2 or 3 times already, but this is the last time, I promise. Overall, I think that it's a good value just because the amount of supplies that you get. Like I showed you earlier, you can get these boxes. I think I looked on Amazon last night. This particular box on Amazon was like $13.80, almost $14. Just for the 18 Prismacolor Premier colored pencils, $13 is, I mean, it's worth it just with that. Not to mention, you do get the Magic Rub Eraser, you get their illustration markers, you get a sharpener, you get the paper pad, which is, thick, high quality paper. Even though I don't think the online lessons are that great, the price point for these, especially if you can get them for $20 or less, is definitely a good buy. Don't buy them at Michael's because they're like $40. Like I said, you get them for less than half that, even at Walmart. Um, but definitely Amazon. So, I won't say that they're not worth it. I wasn't particularly impressed with the lessons, but the box themselves, the price point is honestly is really really good, because these are professional grade, I guess, professional grade art supplies. And like I said, you get a good variety, and if it's something that you don't know how to use, you do get some instruction. So definitely worth it if you've been thinking, I'm not sure if I want to pick one of these up. Like I said, at almost under $15 a lot of the times. it's definitely worth a shot. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that this was helpful and that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.